White Sox fans, welcome to another edition of the Future Sox podcast. My name is Ian Eskridge. Joining me this evening is Mr. James Fox. How are you, James?
I'm good, man. What's going on?
Well, pitchers and catchers have
Yeah,
reported.
lots of
So,
stuff.
yeah, begin the excitement. So, I guess one of the biggest storylines that basically opened pitchers and catchers reporting was that Kai Busch is going to be out for the season with Tommy John surgery. So that means that there's going to be a bunch of fallout from that. You have any thoughts on that initially?
Yeah, so I think we learned some immediate fallout. I don't know that it's totally public, but I tweeted yesterday about it. We can get into that in a minute. I mean, it sucks for Kai Busch, obviously. I mean, that's not a guy that, like right away I was like, ooh, that's unfortunate, just because like pitchers get hurt all the time, like they break, whatever. It's not a guy who you needed like imminently, right? He was a periphery piece, probably a back end lefty, just like another good guy to have like around. He probably was going to make some starts. I think there's some reliever risk there. Um, yeah, and then I think the questions just come in like, from people like, when did this happen? Like, should they have done it sooner? Like all that sort of stuff that I don't really have time for, because it's just, like, I don't know. Like he was hurt late last year. They said that he got hurt or not rehabbing, but they said he got hurt, recently, and he's having Tommy John. So he'll make it back. I'm sure he'll be fine. He's going to be a little bit older. He's going to be using up like an option, obviously. So they'll 60-day DL him, and then what I would think next year by mid-season, he's like an option, whether that's just out of the bullpen or whatever. But look, he's probably not going to be the last one. Like when you start building this thing around pitching, like this is one of the risks. Like they break. It's why you need a whole bunch of it.
Yeah, definitely one of the big risks. Um, yeah, and the thing is that it's unfortunate because when we got him, he was kind of ailing in the first place when we got him from the Angels. And so he didn't, he was recovering from an injury then. And last year, he actually had a pretty nice year. I think in Birmingham, I think he had something like a .96 WHIP, which in the Southern League is really really good. So, his trip to AAA was not as successful. I think it was somewhere around a 2, but you could tell that there was some.
Well, he didn't look as
He's
good either. Like he started nibbling. His stuff wasn't as crisp. Like I wonder if he was like kind of nursing an elbow, but it's hard to speculate on that sort of stuff.
I had wondered the same thing, but something I had actually had a conversation with Beefloaf about this over Twitter that when guys move from Double A to Triple A, they're moving from they're not only moving their location from big time prospects to more journeyman guys that are going to work counts more and things like that. Plus, also dealing with the automated strike zone or the challenge system. They're also changing from the minor league baseball to the major league baseball. And as we have heard from multiple major league pitchers, the difference between the baseball is pretty stark change. It's a lot more difficult to throw with. So it really doesn't surprise me that moving to AAA and majors that you're going to see injuries going from Double A to Triple A and from Double A to the majors, just simply because they have to work harder with the baseball.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a good point. I mean we've seen a lot of, I think like your Dominic, like when Noah Schultz goes to Charlotte, like I don't think we're gonna notice. Like I don't really think it matters, right? But some of these guys who look like back end types, I'm kind of curious to see like fully healthy Mason Adams, what he looks like there, because I mean obviously like he was a revelation in Birmingham. So is he similar in Charlotte without the back strain, right? So
Yeah, that
that
was
sort
unfortunate.
of
Yeah.
thing. So there's some guys like Iriarte, I think, is undergoing quite a bit of change because he was not the guy last year who they thought they traded for. Like his velo was down. They think his velo is back up. He's competing for a rotation spot that he's not going to get. But he's going to be like one of the guys in Charlotte. I think the fallout for what it does in Charlotte is a little bit interesting. Just because so it sounds like you know Jared Schuster, who was in the bullpen last year for most of the year, is going to stretch back out and start, which I think is good just for like an overall like value standpoint. Like I think he's more useful as a back end starter than he is like in the role that he was in last year. And I also think you have guys in your bullpen like you basically have to keep Shane Smith, and you have Bryce Wilson. Like I think you have plenty of bulk options to just send Schuster down and have him start as one of the guys in that rotation. So, I mean, I think Mason Adams and Iriarte are in the Charlotte rotation. Schuster will be there. And then look, Jake Eater and Nick Nastrini are big wild cards. They could at any point transition these guys to relief. They could at any point trade them for something or just DFA them out of nowhere because like these guys technically didn't trade for them, or they could just be given another chance to start and be in the Charlotte rotation. Like that's probably the most likely. But I mean, those five guys I think are in Charlotte. I think you have like a Jonathan Heasley who can start or relieve, who will be down. But I mean, yeah, it just kind of and with like some of the moves they made this offseason that we've talked about on this show, Tyler Gilbert, Cam Booser. There was a guy they just signed or they just claimed a lefty from Tampa. Um, Plus you have Fraser Ellard. Like you have four options for two, maybe three at most lefty bullpen spots. And like Jared Schuster, I think is probably a starter. So like him being like that offers some clarity there because I think like the prospects that you traded for Gilbert and Booster, I think those guys are on the team in the big league bullpen.
Yeah, that's fair. So we do have some questions here that I wanted to get to before we move too far along. Um, Luis asks, "Why should I care about this team?" And
Well,
I mean, I'm not going to tell you how to do what how to fan here. Like that's not our thing here. But there are a bunch of interesting storylines that you can follow, and I'm not going to say that the team's going to be a 75 win team, an 80 win team, but you should see some development here. And I mean, ultimately, at this point, that's what you've got to look forward to. I think with the White Sox.
yeah, I mean, I don't care that much about like the wins and losses necessarily, but like I do care about seeing like some of these young guys. Like I think there's a good chance that you're going to see a whole bunch of pitchers that theoretically could be on their next good team. I mean, a lot of this is about Colson, the two catchers, like who we're not going to see right away. But I mean, like, is Miguel Vargas usable? Right? Like, is that guy going to be anything? Is he on your team? Like, is Andrew Vaughn good enough to trade? Like, there's a whole bunch of these, like those types of things. Like how crazy do we want to get? Right? Like, can you turn Prelander Baroa into a awesome reliever and flip him too, even though it's 5 years of control because it's just the stage they're in. Like as much as I like, uh, Davis Martin, like I forget that Davis Martin's like 28 years old. So if he's your opening day starter and he's like on this like fringe all-star trajectory on one of the worst teams in baseball, like he's also like potential trade option for a team. So I think there's like all those little things with an eye on 26. But that's what we're here for. Like we're going to follow the minor leagues and talk about all these guys who hopefully will be on their team in 26 when they're way more interesting, and hopefully, you know, 2027 if we're all still here and they're hopefully kind of okay again.
Yeah, I also, mentioning the wins, I'm not necessarily hung up on the win total either, but y- just due to the fact that you're hoping for some growth from some of these younger players, I think that it's just going to translate to wins, even if it's not something that you would deem really competitive.
Yeah, is there any like coaching manager stuff that you're like interested in? Like what needs to get different to know like, oh yeah, this isn't like Pedro anymore, like hanging around anymore. Did you see the catcher stuff that Walker McKinven was doing? I don't know how much it helps, but
No.
they were like doing a bunch of pitch framing like that was caught on video, and like they have iPads right in front of them that they're like looking at the readings or
Hmm.
something. I don't know. I had never seen it before, but I'm sure he did it in Milwaukee. So,
Well, I'm
there's just
definitely interested in it. I think that that's going to be a big deal. I mean, obviously, I think the fuller we are looking for the fuller effect to see how that happens. Whether or not that changes plate discipline, if that changes what pitch selection guys are going after. I'm also looking at and when we initially saw Pedro, just some of the things that he said right out of the gate sounded good, but you saw it to start to unravel pretty quickly. From a common sense, just looking
Yeah.
at it and being like, something's not right there. That happened pretty quickly, but out of the gate, it sounded good.
But it was also much different because that team was like supposed to win. And this, like, Venable and Getz are not going there because they shouldn't. There's no reason to, like it's, I think if they had their way, they would improve the win total by 20 games and still get the number one pick. Like somehow, like
At
have
least
one of
get the
the have
percentage.
yeah, right, like be one of the worst teams. So going with, I know I'm going to skip ahead just right now for 1 second, just because. So I was like looking at some of that stuff today. The thing I didn't realize. So who do you think, like off the top of your head, like I think the three worst teams in baseball are probably the White Sox, the Marlins, and the Rockies. Sounds about right to me.
Yep,
And
that's
then the
exactly what I would
Angels,
say.
Angels are probably in there, but whatever. So the Angels and Rockies have the weird rule they can't pick top nine next
Right,
year.
right.
So like the White Sox could have the third or fourth worst record in the league, like, and we're like, oh my god, they won 66 games somehow. There's three teams worse than them, and it doesn't affect like their odds for that sort of thing. Like they're still, one of like the top teams with odds at the number one pick. So that's probably like best case scenario, right? But I don't know how many
Yeah,
games they're gonna win, but it might be 55. Like I don't know.
we'll find out.
Yeah.
I just know, and I hope for beef's sake that it's above 49 and a half. Uh,
Oh,
just
I
for just
yeah,
for his
I'd be.
just for his money, and I
I just
have
be
to imagine it will be.
I just be really surprised, man. I know people are like, "Oh, the team's worse." Like, man, everything went wrong last year. It's so hard to be that horrible. And they started 3-17 and they couldn't dig themselves out, So,
Yep.
I don't
So Eli asks, why did Chris Getz avoid the question of when they'll be good again?
know. Because he's not an idiot. No, I don't know. I mean, like I just don't know what he's supposed to say, cuz the thing for me is like one of the things I need to know is like what is the payroll going to be in 2026, right? Because if like Robert's going to be gone, if they can dump Benintendi on somebody, their payroll is zero pre-arp. Like they literally have no money committed. Now, I don't expect them to like win 62 games and then all of a sudden go on some spending spree next offseason, but they have to spend on something. And then the following offseason, and then that offseason, like the league's probably going to lock out the players. Now, I'm optimistic that they won't necessarily miss like baseball games because they never do. It's like always bluster and then like something gets done. Um, but if it happens, I mean, it's going to be ugly, like it will be ugly with all. So like, is their whole plan going to be spend after the 2026 off season to win in 27? I don't know. I really don't, but
Yep.
they literally have fresh books, and people have pushed back on me. Like I keep saying this places, and people are like, "Oh, Jerry doesn't spend. He doesn't spend." Like, guys, I know. Like, and they're probably never gonna spend like on a $300 million player. But if your payroll is zero, and like he okays $150 million payrolls again at some point, they have to spend on something, So I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Have to is a strong statement, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, like there's just not spending on anything because none of
Yeah.
these guys cost anything.
Yeah. So the last topic, where you went here kind of ties into Adrian's question: is the lockout negatively affect this rebuild like how 2020 affected that rebuild? This is something that we've talked about, a little bit, off air, just about how things might end up working out with timelines here, is that you're literally going to be in the exact same spot, but I don't think that that's really an excuse for, for much of anything really.
Did the lockout hurt the rebuild though? I don't think it did. I think hiring Tony La Russa did. I mean, I think the pandemic hurt it, like
For
because of the
minor league
60.
development,
Well, yeah,
certainly didn't
okay,
help.
so that's fair. But I mean, like the 60-game season hurt more than anything, and that was because of like the pandemic. That wasn't good. Like they still played 162 games the year of the lockout. You just had
Yeah,
Tony La
no,
Russa and spent all your money on relief pitching. I mean, that was, like probably the biggest issue.
ridiculous. All right, so let me see here. I know that there's Howard mentions that he installed an antenna at his
Oh,
house.
yeah.
It did not work. He's in Vernon Hills, so he's still out of luck.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I think the app's the easiest way, guys. I know, like, I don't want to tell people how to spend their money, but I mean, even with a Comcast deal, you're probably on the hook for close to 20 a month for whatever they charge for like the upcharge package. And the White Sox, like on CHSN via the app, is $20, and now you can get it on your TV. Like that seems like the easiest way to me, unless you're gonna switch cable providers. So like I've strongly considered just like getting rid of YouTube TV and doing Fubo TV so that I could have CHSN and Marquee, and I'll make that decision here at some point. But I mean, like the app you can stream to your television now, so that part's helpful at least.
So I went to I was looking at getting the app the other night. Like I downloaded the app on my Apple TV and I was ready to make the jump and just go ahead and do it. And I saw the Blackhawks and I saw the White Sox. And I didn't see the Bulls. And I was like, and you say what you want about the Bulls. I mean, I know that they're a major disappointment and they're run by a complete buffoon, but I would still like to be able to watch them through
Well, yeah,
this
but that's
app.
what you're more interested in would be Bulls, right? Like if you had to pick two teams, or no, you
I
don't have to pick.
mean,
You don't have to pick two teams, but yeah, okay,
I'd probably just do all three,
yeah,
just
right,
because I
yeah,
want to I want to be able to watch all three.
right,
And the White Sox aren't going right now, so if I'm going to get it, I might as well get both the Blackhawks and the Bulls as well. I found out that on Apple TV and I think there's the Fire TV as well.
yeah.
You can't get the Bulls on that app.
Oh,
So
so if you,
they said in a
but
few
if you,
weeks that it should be
oh,
available,
but if you pay
but
for the
it's
app,
not.
you could watch it on your phone. You just can't stream it, or no?
I just wouldn't be able to watch it on my TV via the Apple TV.
Right, but you'd have the app on your phone where you could technically watch a Bulls game, like on your phone, if you wanted to,
I
so
think it
via
works
the
on the
app.
phone,
Yeah, I think it really does
but it
too.
would definitely work on a browser on a computer.
Right, because my
Just those
setup,
devices.
right, like so, yeah, so my setup would be through like my Fire Stick. So yeah, I guess I'll figure out here pretty soon. There's a spring training game on the 24th, apparently. So
Yeah, that is actually a great question that you happen to mention here. That at least where my mind goes is that we have no idea what the broadcast schedule is for White Sox spring training. I don't know if CHSN is going to do a bunch of games or if they're going to do like two.
yeah.
So am I going to pay $20 a month for that team and they're broadcast two games over the month and a half of spring training? I don't know.
Well, they're broadcasting the game on the 24th. I know that. I mean, honestly, they have their own network. They should do all of them, in my
I
opinion, and just
agree.
just set
Yeah.
up a camera, and I don't even need color or audio.
I mean, it
Like
would be John Schriffen.
let
So,
Connor
I
McKnight do
mean,
the games.
yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
you have Connor McKnight there. You have David Haw hanging around. I thought you were going to tell me that you were going to get the app, and then it was just a giant picture of David Haw's face, and then you decided to not do it because of that.
Chicago Haas Sports Network.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I wouldn't doubt it. He's their face everywhere else. So why not?
Yeah, there's like something minor with that network that like kind of like bothers me today, and maybe it's because I'm just like anal about spelling, but like they have Clay Harbor on that network, former NFL player Clay Harbor. This dude can't spell people's names correctly on Twitter, and it really bothers me because like you're the whatever, like the NFL analyst, like spell people's names right, like before you hit send. Like my God.
Yeah, I might as well bring this up now. So I do not forget to mention it. Bobby Jenks has apparently stage 4 cancer, and I think he was in Portugal or something
He's in
like that.
Portugal because his wife lives there or has family there or something. So I
Yeah,
saw
that's
Bobby
sad.
Jenks not too long ago. I went to a one of the Crestwood games with our kids last year, like with our 8th graders last year. We took them to like the 11 o'clock matinee game, and Bobby's in the dugout, whatever. So yeah, that doesn't sound great. I mean, he was, not that like bad behavior like leads to cancer or anything, but he was pretty forthright with like, I guess just like the way he treated himself when he was a much younger man. Like who knows, right? But that was yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, pretty awful. So our thoughts, T's and P's to Bobby Jenks out there. Hopefully, things take a turn for the better here, because that is pretty rough sledding right there. So I want to move along here. The White Sox made a deal and signed Michael A. Tater to a minor league deal with an invite to spring training. So now we have a Michael A. Taylor. Your thoughts on Michael A. Taylor being part of this whole thing?
Well, so actually, like, did you say big league deal or
Is
no?
it a
Because
major deal?
yeah, he got
It's
a
a
big
major
league deal.
league deal, right?
Yeah,
It is a major league deal.
yeah.
Yeah,
So he
I
he
misspoke.
he is on the team. So I think right away I was like, oh my god, they're trading Luis Robert. Apparently that's not true necessarily. It's not like imminent or anything, but I mean, this is Luis Robert, like insurance. Like they don't have anybody who they thought that they could play in a pinch in center. I mean, I think um what Mike Talkman could play there. Um but I mean, so did you look at Michael A. Taylor's offensive numbers? He was a positive WAR player and he can't hit at all. That's how good
Yeah,
that's how good his defense is.
yeah. He's in the 95th percentile for fielding run value.
Yeah,
So that's
like he is
pretty stinking
awesome
good. Yeah.
defensively. Like, yeah, so either corner or center, like, like if they want to rest Robert more. I mean, that's what we were talking before the show, like about how much platooning this team might do. And it's like fine with me, but I mean, like opening day against a lefty, it's Michael Taylor in center and Roberts the DH. I mean, maybe, like, I don't know, I mean, we'll see who's on that team. Um, but it does seem like this is a thing, and he's at least a defensive replacement everywhere. I mean, I do think Getz has signed multiple like actual big league players for $2 million a piece, which is okay. I mean, one of these guys has to be good, right? Like what? Like one of them will take to Ryan Fuller and be like, I think we talked about this last week, like a 115 WRC plus guy that helps a contender or something, right? Like I don't expect you to hit on all of them, but one of these guys has got to be pretty good.
Somebody has to
Right.
do something.
Right.
Um, at least you would hope. I don't know if that's necessarily even going to be true. We could say that right now, and all of them could stink out loud. Who knows? I would hope not. Hopefully, him and Marcus Timms can work some sort of magic here to make one of these outfielders usable. Um, and like one of the things with Michael A. Taylor, at one point he was a fairly well regarded hitter with the Nationals, like in 2000, 15 or 16, something like that, and looked like he might be a halfway decent hitter. And as the age has gone up and the plate appearances have gone down, his numbers have also gone down quite a bit. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's not, I mean, it's just a lot of bodies, man. Like me and Beef went back and forth just like a little bit today on Twitter, and I asked you like I haven't predicted a 13-man position player roster for this team because I'm afraid, Ian. Like I'm very scared. Like I don't like being told when I'm wrong, and I'm gonna be wrong because I have no clue. I mean, I know like the two catchers are locks probably. Robert, Vaughn, Benintendi, Talkman, and Slater. And after
which
that,
catchers though? Which catchers are locks?
I think it's Tice and
Coy Lee?
Lee. Yeah. I mean, I guess if it were Narvaez, it wouldn't be totally shocking, but like, I don't think they're like the problem is they can't send Lee down because you have two better catchers at Charlotte. I mean, I think I have like 8 guys I just told you, and we need 5 more still, and it could be any one of like 20 people. Like,
I mean, I think we're kind of almost not 100%, but we're kind of in the spot where it's like if you got two quarterbacks, you don't have one.
Very much so. How many Brandon
And
Drurys can you sign?
yeah, and I mean, if you can get him to perform like he did in 2023, great. But if we get 2024 Brandon Drury,
Right.
then he's not making a
But
team.
where does he even play? Like you signed Josh. Like if you told me Brandon Drury was the second baseman, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah,
But is Josh Rojas not playing then? Like is Lenny and Sosa off the team? Like is Chase Mydroth at Charlotte? Like I don't know where some of these guys fit. It's like the Gallo thing, right? Like they came out and they talked about Joey Gallo, and like Joey Gallo, like for a 3 true outcome guy who's not great anymore, but has had good seasons. Like he was a good defender. He's got 2 Gold Gloves at playing in the outfield. Um,
he is
like
not anymore.
no, Will Venable said he's like in the first base DH mix. So that's like the lefty I've been wanting this whole time. But I mean, like he can't make the team. Like I don't know. There's just like a lot of dudes for a few spots.
Yeah. So speaking of, the White Sox signed Joey Gallo to a minor league with a invite to camp. That's the one that was the. Now I'm getting it correct here. Unfortunately, last year he doesn't qualify for any of the baseball savant stuff here. But you look at some of his numbers. Some of them are okay. His barrel percentage, his average exit velocity, his walk percentage, that stuff's good. But there's a lot of stuff that's in the very bad as well, with chase rate and K percentage and whiff percentage. There's just so much stuff that he's fighting against. I don't know where things went wrong with him. It was like a Chris Davis like fall from grace, and like all of a sudden, like the guy just couldn't hit anymore, and now he's that much older and slower. So it's like,
Right.
what do we have here? It has to be first base DH, because what else could it possibly be?
Yeah, I mean you can deal with the 35% K rate if you're walking as much as he used to, like if there's the potential for like 30 bombs, but like you can't do it for 10 homers. Like it's just not like you're just not as you're just gonna go up there and strike out all. I mean he struck out like almost 50% of the time for the Nationals. Now I do think Venable had another comment that said like they have some plan, they've seen something that can get him back to like close to what he was. I mean, whatever, fine. Like I remember when I thought Mike Moustakas was going to be on the White Sox,
Moose.
and then they just cut him, and maybe that happens again with Drury and Gallo and like some of these other guys, and you're just like, oh, that was fun. That was like 4 weeks of nonsense, basically.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like we're gonna have a bunch of that coming up in the next couple of weeks. I think everybody sitting here thinking about, oh well, they keep on signing all these retreads, blah blah blah, and it's like half of them could be gone in 3 weeks, and none of us would bat an eye. I don't think
Yeah,
they would either.
no, no, I think they'd like. I mean, I think they'd like Colson Montgomery to hit 650 and look like he's awesome. Um, I just, like I don't know. I don't know how much they truly mean. Like all these jobs are like up for like I never know what that means. Like, is that like how much they prepare? Is it stats? Like is it like who looks ready and who doesn't? Like I don't really get spring training sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I know that it's you're not into the positional battles and stats coming out of spring training and everything, which is understandable, because you hitting in Arizona is completely different than pretty
Yeah,
much anywhere
well,
else. So that kind of makes things a little bit weird. Plus the effects on the pitching with the Magnus effect from the
do
air's weight and all that stuff. I mean,
you remember Jacob May?
yes,
That's what I mean. Like,
unfortunately.
I mean, like it doesn't mean that it's not gonna work. It just doesn't mean that like if a guy had a big spring, like they've earned their way onto the big league. Like it's just okay, fine. And then like you immediately go to Chicago where it's gonna be 26 degrees on opening day, which doesn't really help anything.
Yeah. So next up here, that I had as a talking point here, kind of along the last line of thinking here, as pitchers and catchers have reported. not pitcher or catcher related, but Miguel Vargas showed up to Arizona, and he looks to have packed on 20 pounds, so he says, eating a lot of rice and beans, quote unquote. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, it's not best shape of your life type thing
Great.
like
Yeah.
Eloy, but
Yeah, I mean, he's got to impact the baseball. He looked awful last year. He did look like rail thin last year. Like I didn't expect him to look the way he looked, like based off like what I'd seen. And this guy, I mean, this is like the crazy thing is like obviously like there's been thousands of guys who have been on top prospects lists who have been good in the minor leagues who have done nothing in the majors, right? But he had pedigree. Like he was like supposed to be good and he was terrible. So, I guess it's better than nothing. I think he earns a shot. I've seen some talk like on Twitter that's like, oh, he's not guaranteed a spot. Like I would be stunned if Miguel Vargas is not on the 2025 White. Like, he's out of options. Like they're not just going to be like, well, that trade sucks. We just cut that guy. Like they're not going to do that. They might by June if he sucks, but they're definitely like he's coming north.
yeah, I kind of feel the same. So Vince brought this up here. Worst contracts in MLB history. I actually have. We're going to talk about that. Just briefly here a little bit later.
Oh,
Just
there's
as
another
a
one.
yeah.
There's another one right now that's one of the worst of all time.
All right. So moving along from, I guess, do you have any other thoughts on pitchers and catchers reporting? Noah Schultz, Hagen Smith, any of that stuff? Anything that you've seen so far that's been interesting to you?
I mean, I like all the video of these dominant lefties that are gonna be up soon, hopefully. Like, I mean, I kind of like when veterans come into camp and they like see dudes like this for the first time and they're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, like this is ridiculous." Like Matt Tice caught Schultz today and was just like, "Okay." Like it's almost like he doesn't want to catch him ever again because he's like, "This guy's too good. Like what are we doing here?" That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um no, I mean, I'm just like I'm interested in seeing the prospects, obviously. Like that, and like when these guys are in big league camp, like they show that they like are better than everybody there, and then it's like, all right, whisk these guys back down to the minor leagues, like before anybody gets too excited, type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I do think some of the like I don't really care who starts on opening day, but I think it's going to be Davis Martin, just based off of the past like 48 hours and the way they talk about him. I mean, it doesn't make any sense having it be Martin Perez. Like if you think Cannon's going to be in your rotation a long time and you want to give him the honor, that's fine. But I feel like Davis Martin makes sense to me. They're talking an awful lot about him and how good they think he can be and how he's like one of their favorites and that sort of thing. So, I think the way the bullpen shapes up will be interesting once games start. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, what position players basically just reported. So
Yeah. I will say this. I cannot wait for veterans to report either because it took about 2 slow motion tweets for me to be done with seeing slow motion pitching tweets.
oh yeah,
I'm
from like no
so
shot stuff
over it.
and yeah.
Show me a couple of pitches, do a little bit of video work here, chop them up, put them in normal speed. I don't need to see slow motion of every single pitcher on the roster. I don't need to see it. Just regular pitches, man. That's it.
Yeah, there are
Uh
there are a lot of slow motion pictures
oh my
on Twitter
gosh. It's
right now.
every single, like almost literally every single one I saw, it would start off normal and then about a half second into the video it'd be like brrr. And I'm just like, "Oh, here we go again." I just get off of it. All right. Uh, NCAA baseball started this week. What are your main takeaways that you've seen so far going through this, other than Jace Laviolette right now looks like he's got to be number one?
If he's not number one, he will be playing for the Angels in September
Yeah.
because he will go number two. And Artie Moreno will be like, "Oh, we're just gonna call him up because like why not?" No, I mean I think the college class is pretty freaking good. And I do think like the amount of resources that the good teams have and the way, and you know better than me right now about the portal and how much money these teams are spending. Like all the good players are on like all these SEC, ACC, Big Ten powers, like, and they just like some of them are run better than the major league team that we root for. These college guys are like so optimized where like they're just like really good and they get to the majors really quickly. I mean, if you like go look at the White Sox have two of them in Braden Montgomery and Kyle Teal, right? Who were like exploded onto the scene, and those guys were like picked in the teens. The Cubs are going to have Matt Shaw starting for them. Guys from last year's draft will be in the big leagues this year. So, like, I think anybody that's listened or paid attention to things that I've said for a while, like knows that like I really like prep players and taking them. But I think this is a year with the White Sox at 10, with this class of college hitters, like it's going to make a lot of sense to potentially take a college guy that's like on track with your other prospects. Like, you know, you draft a center fielder that is in the big leagues at the same time as Teal and Caro and some of these other guys. I think that makes sense. We're a long way to go. I just was kind of impressed with some of the offensive guys on the college side, like Ava Arquette. It's a shortstop from Oregon State. Dean Curley is a sophomore eligible from Tennessee. He hit a bomb this week. Brendan Summerhill is a local guy who's the center fielder at Arizona. So there's just like a whole bunch of these dudes, and college hitters like always kind of rise to the top in a class though with some premium prep guys in the top 10 and two really good college pitchers. So I know it kind of sucked that the White Sox are stuck picking 10th, but I think they're going to get somebody pretty good.
Yeah, I think it looks that way as well. I think that there's a good enough class that, I mean, you're not going to get the Jace Laviolette kind of immediate impact, I don't think, but there's definitely a chance to get somebody that's going to be certainly useful, if not, within a year, but within, a decent amount of time here. Although I want to see what the what the prep class does this year.
Yeah, because
Because
they're right. There's like multiple prep shortstops, that I would be more than happy with. It's just, you know, you're still a little bit further to the majors. I mean, I will probably be talking about them taking a bat at 10 all the way until July. And then we'll see if they surprise us again and take another arm, But
when they do,
yeah, it just seems like bat kind of makes the most sense. But yeah, I'm a little bit interesting. It's a little bit interesting. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we both thought it was going to be a bat, and both of us were pretty much sold that it was going to end up being Connor Griffin. But then, of course, there's and I don't blame them for taking Hagen Smith, because I originally said Hagen Smith when I was asked who I wanted him to grab in the first place. So, I mean,
yeah,
I'm not mad at it. I just, I was kind of like, let's get a bat in here.
I just didn't think they were going to do it. Yeah, agreed.
I did, yeah, and we'll see where where we end up here in the next I don't know, probably month or so, until we talk to Jim Callis again
Or whoever. Yeah, we'll have a bunch
yeah.
of draft guests on, especially in a lost season like this one. But I mean,
Hmm.
did you see Connor Griffin's in big league camp with the Pirates? And he is massive. Like, I always forget how big that kid is.
Yep, got to see if that swing irons itself out, but
Yeah, he's playing shortstop supposedly. So,
well, I mean, it was either that or center field they were kind of mentioning, right? So
yeah. Can
see
you
where
pull
they
this?
end up.
So Howard had a question about the number 10 pick and the money. So like the draft order is done, which I would like to talk Bregman here and the ramifications, but so like the draft order is complete now because all the qualifying offer free agents have signed. The bonus pools are not out yet, but the White Sox are at 10, and then they pick Howard. They pick first in every round. So like the bonus pool's still going to be pretty good. I mean, their first rounder is like right around 6 million, most likely. We don't have it yet, but I think they should have 12 or 13 million dollars at least, like to spend, and that's before like maybe if they can get another pick or whatever. But I think their second pick is at 44, and then their third pick's like in the 70s somewhere. So, or 80 something. I don't know. I'll have a full write up at some point, but they'll have plenty of money with a $6 million first rounder, most likely if they want one.
That whole thing still pisses me off. every time I think about it. And I'm sitting here watching Jace Laviolette launch home runs, and I was talking to Elijah earlier. I was like, man, that sure seems like a team that had 121 losses last year should have a shot at. So aggravating.
Yeah, at least it's not a year though with like a no doubt number one. Because there are people
Yeah.
that like I don't know if you saw Joe Doyle's reply to me. Like he's like not sold that Chase Laviolette's more than like Braden Montgomery type, you know? So like we say that now, but who knows? Like there's people that don't think Ethan Holiday is this lock for like the top two either, which is like a little bit nuts to me. I mean, I think I told you earlier, like the catcher that I was like that Luke Stevenson, who's at North Carolina, he's like a draft eligible sophomore who they think has 25 to 30 home run power, like, and his defense is better after destroy. Like that's a guy that could go 1-1. I mean, college catchers that are staying at catcher that hit like that go very, very high. So yeah, we're very early on. But it does seem pretty good. I mean, the thing that remember they did the draft lottery, the White Sox were going to pick sixth. So we actually kind of lucked out. I mean, I'll take 10 with the chance at being top 5 next year. Because have you seen Drew Burris? My goodness gracious. He's sophomore outfielder at Georgia Tech, who's the projected number 1 pick in 26. So I think you kind of want a shot at him.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I wasn't 100% sure how I felt about the draft lottery when it got suggested. After having gone through what we've gone through, I absolutely hate it now. It took one time.
I don't like mind the lottery. I would just tinker with the rules. Like I don't like that you can like lose ground and then still be like buried the next year. And I also don't like that the small market teams get to be like in the top 6 or whatever for 2 years and the big market teams don't. I mean, like you're the Angels right now. Like you get the number 2 pick, and if you're horrible, you're in the same spot as the White Sox, so you're picking 10th. Like it's just kind of, I don't know. I don't really like it. But then you can be these like tanking rebuild like small market teams and just kind of do it 2 years in a row. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it kind of falls in line with my feelings on a lot of this big market, small market stuff with the revenue sharing, where the White Sox are paying into revenue sharing. They get lumped in with all the other teams that, have more resources
Yeah.
ultimately. And I was going to bring this up when we talked to Ben the other night, but I didn't want to, you know, kind of jump in or jump back into the conversation here. But the fact that the White Sox get the same international market money as the Dodgers, like to me, that's insane. They're going out and they've got a $300 million payroll, yet they still have the same budget internationally as the White Sox do, winning, 60 more games than the White Sox did.
Yeah, because it's all about revenue sharing and market size.
Mm-hmm.
Everything always is.
Doesn't make any sense. It should be exactly like how the draft is in the international market, in my opinion, is that the year that you win the World Series, you have less money in the international market. But of course, they don't do that. It's just my personal opinion on the whole thing. It kind of, to me, makes me a
Well,
little.
it's why the international draft makes a lot of sense, and Ben brought that up. If you guys haven't listened to that episode, I mean yeah, I mean it would be. I mean you've already like cratered the process by putting all of the like restrictions in place. Like you're never going back to the Wild West the way it was. So like I feel like going to the draft like doesn't really inhibit you anymore, especially when some of these kids are picking their team based on like their favorite colors and stuff anyways. So
Yes, I am, Jack. Yes, I am. So unless what if there's some questions that pop up in chat, we'll go. Of course, we'll take a look at them. But we kind of wanted to move along to MLB happenings as of late. So Bregman signs.
yeah,
Finally.
I have a theory on this, but you can continue if you want.
No, let's hop into it. I kind of want to thought, we had talked off air after we got done with the stream last week, talking to Sean, or maybe it was after Ben, but either way, we had a talk and we had talked about, how statistically, from analytically speaking, it didn't make any sense for Bregman to end up with the Cubs just because their field was terrible for his game.
For him, yeah.
But for Boston, it
Makes a
seemed
lot
like
of
the
sense.
ideal place.
Yeah.
And he ends up there. So your thoughts?
So I feel like a lot of people always push back when I talk about giving up second round picks and this sort of thing, like, and how qualifying offers like really tank guys' value. I don't think it's a coincidence that Nick Pivetta signed with San Diego and then Bregman got a deal all of a sudden. So if you're the Cubs and you were to sign Alex Bregman, and you might think this is worth it, right? Whatever. But say you're the Cubs, you sign him to a deal. You're forfeiting your second round pick, your fifth round pick in 2026, and $1 million in international space because you were like over the luxury tax, right? So I completely understand like calling Tom Ricketts cheap. I'd be pissed if I were a Cubs fan, but I also understand like not wanting to let Alex Bregman opt out after one season. Like if you're going to lose a second, a fifth, and $1 million in international space. Now, the Red Sox do not lose that much. What the Red Sox effectively do is they forfeited like the 54th pick in the draft, roughly, which is their second round pick to sign Alex Bregman to the deal that they did. But because they QO'd Nick Pivetta is signed in San Diego, they're getting the 75th pick for him. So it's really only a loss of 20 draft spots. And like in all reality, like if Bregman's really good, I think that deal's a 1 year, $40 million deal because he goes back out onto the market without a QO attached, and all he needs to beat is 280. Which I think he could do. Like, even if that's 4 at 140 or something, like it's better than 280, like, because it might be his last deal, right? So I just think like the rules being different, like, very much played into this. Like, it makes a lot of sense for the Red Sox, even if it's a 1 year deal, because like they're losing 20 draft spots. It's like not that big of a deal. The Cubs, I mean, it's a pretty substantial. Like, I totally understand them not wanting to let him opt out until like his second year. But I think those signings are related. I think if Nick Pivetta doesn't sign with San Diego the other night, like Bregman might still be unsigned right now because I think the Red Sox would still be haggling over the opt outs in the deal. Like, I don't think they were willing to let him opt out after one until they knew that they were like getting their pick back in return, basically, for Pivetta.
So we mentioned earlier one of the worst signings in history.
Yikes.
This Anthony Rendon saga, I will call it, because things have just gotten so absolutely ridiculous. The guy signed what, like I don't even know how it was
seven at 245, something like that.
Yeah, something like $40 million a year or something like that, and has played 250 games in 4 years for 3 WAR, and yeah, he's making something like $1 million. He's made something like just like $10,000 short of like $1 million a game for what he's played so far, and now he's out for the season with season-ending hip surgery. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess when they signed Moncada to the big league deal, did you think it was like imminent? I don't know. I guess I didn't think, because it was like, okay, yeah, Moncada's like a flyer, that, but then like Moncada's their third baseman because Rendon just doesn't feel like playing baseball. I didn't know that he had that reputation like until after he signed with the Angels, and then some of that started to come out like, hey, they just signed a guy that hates baseball, and I was like, wait, what do you mean? And then I read up like all this stuff. Like, I didn't like really know that about him, but even when he was on like the Nationals, he was like, yeah, baseball kind of sucks, but I'm pretty good at it. So yikes, that's like
Yeah,
that's total like Artie Moreno, like, I'm gonna sign the top guy just because I feel like it signing. And yeah, not very good.
yeah, the whole thing, and when he's played there, when he was healthy before he started having all these injury issues right off the bat, he started off well. If I remember correctly, like when he first got on the Angels, but yeah, just absolutely insane. And I followed him when he was on the Nationals, and I knew that he wasn't like a huge fan of baseball, but this is taking it to a completely different level of absurdity that he's just like, yep, going to work today, gonna go punch in, and then as soon as I can, I'm gonna punch in and get out of there. I mean, it's like that's exactly what it is. It's just a job for him. He has absolutely no interest in being there whatsoever, other than the paycheck.
Yeah, and it's a big paycheck. I mean, you think he's like up there. You ever like been to the gym and you see like some old guy or like somebody that's like never been there before and they're doing like the machines like really wrong and you're like, oh no, like oh my god, this guy's gonna like kill himself type of thing. I wonder if Rendon does that like on purpose to like try, like he's like doing some hip exercise. And you're like, well, that doesn't look normal, and then he's just like, oh, my hip's gone, I need surgery. Like
Yeah, I
I don't like he's had injury after injury. Um, you think he ever plays in a major league game again?
oof, I kind of don't.
I doubt it
Uh,
too.
to answer your earlier question, I didn't think that the Yoan signing was to be their third baseman. Which I mean, obviously now you look at it and they obviously knew that his hip was bad,
Yeah,
and they just hadn't announced it yet.
right.
I just thought it was, well, we know Rendon's going to get injured, so we
Yeah,
might as
right.
well sign another guy that maybe he gets injured too, but at least there'll be somebody, and it's not that expensive. That was my thought.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel, I mean, this is Yoan's last deal unless he's good. So this bastard will probably put up like a 135 WRC plus and get paid again, and then you'll never hear from him again either. So even though the Orange County might be dangerous for Yoan. So
Absolutely, it could be.
right. Like
He could put up a 135 this year and then sign another contract and then just magically get hurt again and never play again.
yeah. So one thing
Pull
I
the
think
Rendon.
did we talk about Tim Anderson on air or no?
I
So
don't
I
remember.
think a lot of people brought up the fact that like, oh, there are all these like White Sox are gonna be like on opening day for the for the White Sox, and I didn't think Tim Anderson would be, but I didn't know Nito was gonna be out. So it sounds like Tim Anderson might be their opening day shortstop. So if I did say that, I screwed up that because right away I was like, Tim Anderson's not making the team. He's terrible now. But it actually sounds like he might because they have guys out.
I literally said the exact same thing when I found out that Nito was having that coming back from surgery. I was like, oh, Tim is probably going to end up playing then, or somebody's
Yeah,
going to end up playing. Maybe
right.
they end up bumping somebody else over to shortstop, and you know something. I don't know,
Well, I
but
wasn't even thinking about short. I thought they were like he was just going to be a second baseman now, and I knew that they'd probably have Christian Moore playing. So I was like, he's not playing over. But yeah, it sounds like he might be. So when we're in attendance at opening day, it sounds like we might get Yoan Moncada and Tim Anderson playing for the Angels. And there was video today. I don't know if you saw it, but Ron Washington was doing like ground ball work like indoors somewhere, like with Moncada. He was like firing balls at him and having Moncada like stop him.
if you've got somebody that needs help with infield work, Ron Washington is absolutely the guy that
He's the
you
guy.
should be having him work with.
Yeah.
Which is
Honestly, like they should have hired Ron Washington instead of Pedro
that was my thought.
and just see what happens, right? Like
Yeah,
how bad could it be? But I mean, that was probably the move.
yeah. Let's see here. Um, Wolf's got a question here. You guys see this Yoho kid for the Brewers, supposed to replace Williams at closer, pitching factory.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, they also have who's the guy that's probably not going to start? That's like that Jacob Mizorowski is
yeah.
ridiculous, and
See,
people like Callis loves him. He's
yeah.
probably not going to start because it's like premium stuff and he just like doesn't throw enough strikes, but he's like, like if you could harness that, that's another one of those like back end type guys.
No, I'm not saying. And if you are a Brewers fan and you're hearing this, I don't want to hear from you. But you know how I got, you know that feeling that you have about Jake Eater, where you know that the stuff is really good,
Yeah.
but there's something about it that you're like, something's missing. That's how I feel about Jacob Mizorowski. Every time I've seen him pitch, I feel like he can't throw strikes.
Yeah, because he can't.
So I don't
You
know.
know the type of stuff that the Brewers do. This is the type of stuff they do. They signed Davy Garcia. He'll give them 60 innings out of the big league bullpen this year. That's what the Brewers do. Somehow he'll just be like, oh, 3.80 ERA in the NL, like 1.5 WAR reliever out of freaking nowhere, because that's just how they do things.
That's how they did things.
Yes.
With Walker McKinven.
That's, well, we'll see. I mean, that's seems like a significant loss for them. The Brewers have like done nothing. I know we haven't done really like a ton of like other team stuff, but like there's some teams that have had weird off seasons. And I know like a lot of it's because of money and they'll blame it on the RSNs, and maybe that's true. I don't know. Right. But there are some teams that just haven't done very much.
Yep. So last one I had on the MLB thing here is the Cole Ragans extension.
Oh, yeah.
So not that it's like really any big shakes here. I think he got like $13 million to buy out a couple of years of arbitration. Doesn't really mean anything for the White Sox other than that he's pretty much going to stick around and he's eating up a little bit more of the Royals' money. But I mean, ultimately, it really doesn't make any difference at all. I just figured I'd bring it up because it's, interesting and he was pretty good. So,
but I've never seen a deal like that before. So it bought out. So he was in his third year pre-arb. So he's going to get a significant raise from that number. And then it's like 2 arb years as well. So he's locked in. He basically knows how much he's going to get. But then he'll still have a third arb year with Kansas City after this deal, where he'll, in theory, need to agree to a like arb 3 contract or extend or get traded or whatever, right? But this deal doesn't like run till the end of his team control. So it's just like a little bit strange. But I mean, good for him. Like I think he just like jumped on 13 million bucks or whatever that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise.
yeah, I think it's just pretty awesome for the Royals to do for him because realistically, the only thing that it is it's benefiting him.
100%.
So I feel like they are just doing this just to hook him up, which I think is pretty awesome.
Because even if he was really good again this year, his year 1 arb salary is like $1 million.
Yep.
So
yeah, Maxi's getting like 1.6 or 2 million or something.
Yeah, and if he's
like that.
great, like he'd make close to this, like in ARB 2, but like if he's not great, like like I totally get it. Talk about a hell of a trade. Like you trade like a half season of Aroldis Chapman for Cole Ragans. Like that's pretty good.
Yes, indeed. All right, so the time of the night has come. So there will be a new segment coming up here at some point in time soon. But once again, we have had some Twitter arguments here.
Some shenanigans, yeah. People are mad at me.
And we're gonna go ahead and bring out Jimmy Hoax here.
Yeah, we really gotta do something with this, and I know you have some ideas. Yeah, I've been spreading prospect propaganda on Twitter for years, apparently. Which is fine. Like whatever. Like prospect humping, like I love it. So it's fine. Like, I got into a spat this week because I thought Andrew Vaughn was gonna be good, and now I know that he sucks, and I'm vocal about it. It kind of bothers me. So whatever. So that's fine. I have lots of bad takes on the internet, guys, if you want to go find them.
I mean, I know you were really stepping out on a limb here. You and literally every other sports writer everywhere thought Andrew Vaughn was going to be pretty good, but your take of him being good, we're gonna put you up on crucify you.
Yeah, I really went out there too, man. I was like, gonna be in the middle of their order for a decade stuff. Like there's some really bad tweets. Like they're bad. Like it's like, my God, do I look like an idiot? But whatever. I mean, I'll probably tweet something about Kyle Teal being awesome like 2 weeks from now, and then he'll bust, and 5 years from now somebody will bring it up. So it's cool. I can handle it.
But James, you said
I did say.
You said.
And then I changed my mind when more data was presented. Like, I don't think I have many positive Madrigal ones out there. Because I was always like very nervous about that one. You know, I was like, ooh, people that are smart think this guy's gonna be good, but I don't know because he looks like a baby. Like so that one didn't. A lot of these didn't age well. I have really bad Zach Collins takes out there. Bad, real bad, real bad.
I as far as I go with this stuff is that I want to be positive about these guys, but man, it's sometimes it just happens. Nothing you can do about it. So,
Yeah, Beef says he remembers me now. So the thing that was really weird about Madrigal was that and we didn't really get into Colson that much, and I know we're getting off here, but I've always kind of respected Keith Law's opinion a lot, on hitters, right? Because he's just right a lot, and he's out on an island and whatever. And he hated Nick Madrigal, but other guys who like Kylie McDaniel thought he was going to be good, and Loganhagen thought he was going to be good, and other smart people just thought that it was going to play. And I'm like, man, this is so weird. And then I think once people realized that he was a 40 runner and he was kind of a dope, it was okay, well, he's bad because he just doesn't impact the baseball. So all this other stuff has to be awesome. And it was very far from awesome.
the bill of goods that was sold
Oh my God.
is not what they got. So you wonder what the scouts were looking at, but literally everybody said elite defense.
70 defense, 70 hit, 70 run. No, yep. No.
None of it was true. Very sad. And it was the thing is that none of it, the hit tool was pretty good. But the thing
probably a 55.
Yeah, that was the only thing where had that not been as good as everybody advertised, I'd have been like, okay. But for the fact that they said his defense was going to be great and that his base running was going to be great, that was the thing where I was like, this is the stuff that you can control that you just don't. So it's out and out fabrication.
If anybody didn't listen, Keith Law joined Jim Margulis this week, it was pretty informative when he was talking about top 10 picks and how you're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong a lot. But if you take a guy in the top 10, you should think that there's a chance that he could be a star. And Keith Law didn't have Madrigal in his, because he's that guy can't be a star. He just can't. He doesn't impact the baseball. He just can't be a star. He could be a regular, but he can't be a star. So you shouldn't take him that high. And, he was a 4th overall pick in that draft.
Yeah, that's tough. All right. Well, that's all I got. Are you good?
For this segment, we'll do Jimmy Hoax again next week, maybe.
We'll see. Yes, we'll see what
I tweeted. They don't even, and you don't even want to see my Bears tweets. My goodness.
I'm leaving those ones alone. I'm going to leave those alone. All right. So I'm going to walk us out of here. You have been watching / listening to the FutureSox podcast. If you are listening to this in podcast form, know that you can find us every Sunday night at 8 p.m. on YouTube and the Purple app. You can also find this podcast along with all of our written content at FutureSox.net. If you are looking for White Sox prospect highlights, you can find them on X at FutureSox and now also here on our YouTube channel. If you love the content and want to support us here at FutureSox, there's a link to our Patreon in our channel description and at FutureSox.net. You can also toss up a super chat on our YouTube stream. Also, don't forget to like this stream and subscribe with notifications so you know when we're going live. Also, while helping us in the World Wide Web algorithms. My name is Ian Eskridge at Daily White Sox, and he is Jimmy Hoax at James Fox 917. We appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening and commenting in the chat. You guys drive this community. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. You guys have a great week, and we will talk to you next week. Thanks.